is Melchan and welcome to another Is It Worth the Grind video. Today we are looking at the 57 Heavy, the tier 10 American heavy tank. Done this review before, but that is quite outdated and the tank has been changed since, so this feels like a good time to redo the video. So what there is to know about the 57 Heavy? Is it worth the grind? Well, fuck yeah it is, but we'll look into that later. Let's start with the grind as we always do. So when we come to the grind, we have two choices here. You either go the T49 line or T69 line. The choice between two of those is, one might say, quite obvious. Like, everybody would go for this line. But if you want to go for this line after 9.6, this thing is gonna be a big stinker in here. You have on the 152mm gun, you have 0.6 accuracy with 3.6 second aiming time. The soft stats on this tank makes the aiming around 8 seconds after you stop moving and stop turning your turret. So after the accuracy changes, this gun is not going to be able to hit the barn from the inside. So this tank is probably going to be horrendous after the accuracy changes. Even now it's derpy and it only works half of the time. But after the accuracy changes, I think you might be better off with this gun and just spam a lot of heat in it. That being said, I'm going to mainly focus on this line. I haven't really played any of these light tanks because I just don't like the light tanks. And from what I've heard, these are just blatantly OP. The Bulldog is being nerfed, but even still, it's OP regardless. It's too fast and too good to compare it to most other tier 7 light tanks. Apart from this guy, this is also really good. But we'll look into the line here. Tier 7. A classic tier 5 medium tank. There's nothing really much to say. The only issue is that it is a medium tank, and as far as I remember, it doesn't have a lot of crew in it. But that shouldn't really be a problem. No, it actually has enough. It has 5 crew members, so your crew is gonna go through some trouble here. You probably want to keep this crew for the T69 and just get a new light tank crew for the light tanks to follow. T21, probably the worst tank in this line if you go this route. Really poor. The gun is not great. It's alright for a tier 6, I suppose, but the tank is big and it's not so fast, so it's pretty much a T20, one tier lower with a shitty gun and no hit points, so not really fan favorite, and I don't really enjoyed playing it as well. I didn't really play it a lot, I imagine. Did I even play it? I don't even know. I know it's not very good, that's for sure. Then we get to the T71. For some reason I had never unlocked the tracks on it, probably because it was not really needed. One of the most fun tier 7 light tanks. It's a bit OP as well in a way. It is actually getting buffed because fuck 1375. Really good gun, extremely good penetration for tier 7 light. 175 is really good comparing it to French autoloaders. Really nice quick autoloader with reasonably good aiming, so this tank is reasonably good. Well, it's really good actually, so really good light tank here. So if you enjoy playing light tanks, you'll probably enjoy playing this quite a lot. And the visa shorter is quite flat on. You probably don't need tracks for jack shit, so you don't get them. You get the engine, you get the radio, and you get the gun. Unless you want to obviously play this tank more, then you probably get the tracks as well. Then we get to the T69. Kind of a love-hate relationship with this tank. When it works, it's great. When it doesn't work, it's absolute shit. This 90mm gun actually has less penetration than the tier 7 light tank, so you really want to plant your shots properly in this thing. You don't really want to aim at fronts at any really tank you meet, apart from some tier 6s and 7s. That being said, the autoloader is capable of dishing out over 900 damage in a really relatively quick amount of time, so the tank can be really punishing, and the armor on it can bounce shots as well. It's really random though, and hull doesn't bounce shit, so don't expect much from the armor, but it can bounce some things, and the engines are reasonably decent here, but you should probably have these if you touched any of the light tanks. If not, then you would definitely want to get all these engines. The tanks really need them, otherwise the T69 is quite sluggish as it is, and you really want those engines to make it bearable. The stock engine and this is just horrible. Then we get to the T41. This thing is ridiculously capable. The problem with it is pretty bad soft stats and hard stats on this gun. 0.4 accuracy isn't great, and 2.9 second aiming time when the reload between shots is 2.2 is also not ideal. But the tank has ridiculous potential. The rather low penetration here as well makes it... you need to know what you're shooting at, and you need to make sure you can pen it before you even try to shoot at it. Quite the long reload on the gun, so I prefer 5120 over this, but this tank has ridiculous potential, and the speed at which you just rip French tanks to pieces is ridiculous. Like, this tank can kill a Lorraine in one clip, which takes 6 seconds to unload, while the Lorraine would have to take more than 10 to even touch your hit point pool in any significant way. So that is what this tank is good at. It's good at obliterating softly armored tanks from close ranges. And if you get games where you can do that, then this tank is going to be your favorite toy. But if you get into fights against some top tier heavies or get into some long range battles, this thing isn't really going to do much. The armor on the turret is random as fuck, and the hull is reasonably weak to pretty much anything that's going to be shooting at you. But if you can keep it close, simple, and if you can obliterate your targets in 6 seconds and get the fuck out, then you're gonna be in really good shape in this tank. After that, we get to the beast itself, the 57 Heavy. So here's the 57 Heavy in all its glory. Let's look into the armor before we do anything else. So first of all, we see a lot of orange here, and the tank has reasonably good armor for Tier 10 Heavy. You don't really want to tank with this because that's not how you play this. It has one really big weak spot, which is the lower plate. 114 armor, the angling is not so good as you can see. So between 160 to 140 armor, so everything pretty much bends the lower plate. When we look higher, we see a different picture. 240, 390, even 400 armor. Like, upper plate is really good here. It's pretty much unpenetrable for pretty much anything but Tier 10 tank destroys. Well, some of the Tier 10 heavies will put you shots through the upper plate at some points as well, but it's quite dodgy and I wouldn't ever recommend to shoot it. When it comes to the turret, there's mixed bag of emotions here. The turret wing part is quite weak to pretty much everything. Well, not pretty much everything. It still has some angles, but it's rather flat in most places, and it's usually gonna be quite an easy penetration if you don't shoot the gun through it. You shoot it through the gun. The upper part of the turret, however, sloped very well. Really good angles here, as you can see, and it's rounded as well, so you have quite a lot of chances of bouncing off shots here. As you can see, 300 armor, and the farther to the sides it goes, the shittier it gets, but still, you can get some bounces off the turret as well, especially if you act fast like you should with this tank. You get your shots off quickly, you fuck off and hope that your enemies panic instead of aiming properly and shoot you in zones where you will bounce them. The safe spot for me to go shoot when I face a 57 Heavy has to be the zone around the gun. This part I found quite unreliable. It can bounce some shots as well if you hit it in like a ridiculous angle, like here. The shot can still penetrate, but it can bounce off as well. So the best zone to shoot is the gun zone. If you have like a really accurate Tier 10 medium, that's what I would go for. Otherwise, the side armor crap and the rear armor crap and the top armor crap, so there's not really much to say there. When we look into the soft stats, we're comparing it to the 50B, since it's the only other Tier 10 autoloader heavy tank in the game. Aiming time, way worse than on the 50B. Soft stats on the move as well, way worse. Apart from full speed moving, because the 50B is just so much faster, then it would be weird to see this stat being better. But otherwise, the tank is slower and the soft stats are worse, so the gun is more fit to close combat than the 50Bs. 50B can handle medium and long range pretty well as well. When we look into the mobility, similar situation here. Worse power to rate, worse power and worse speed, worse everything pretty much. And when it comes to the soft stats, it actually gets slightly better soft stats, but that's not gonna pull it out from the hole this is. So you don't really compete with the mobility of the 50B with the 57 Heavy, but the soft stats at least do not bury this tank deeper than it actually already is. That being said, I'm pretty sure we're ready to go to the replays. So here's the first game, but before we get into actual gameplay, let's talk about some of the stats we left behind. So you have 2250 hit points, really good value there, better than most other like faster heavy tanks like the 50B or the E5. Top speed limit 35.4. It's alright, it's almost there, up there with the 57 Heavy. Engine power 810, not that great. It's slightly slower than the 57, than the E5, and quite a bit slower than the 50B. Traverse 30 degrees per second, good enough for this hull, and the brain resistance you saw already. It's alright. It doesn't get shafted at all, so it's decent enough. We range 400 meters. Traverse 36. Adequate enough, as good as on the 50B. When we come to the gun, 400 alpha damage, 258 penetration with AP, 340 with heat, so that's ridiculously over the top. Damage per minute, and here comes the funny part, 3096 with the stock values. That is ridiculous. Obviously you can't mount rammer, but your DPM is by 600 points higher than on the E5. E5 can mount rammer, so it's gonna equal out a bit more, but still, 3k DPM with an autoloader, that's ridiculous. The reload in this mag is around 22 to 23 seconds, depends on your configuration. That is also ridiculous. 50B gets around 27 seconds. This literally, if you reload as fast as the Atman's E100 and you shoot 1600 damage. Obviously it takes some time to unload your shots as well, but it gives you more flexibility in the result as well. Accuracy 0.35, which is up there with an E5 and a 50B, but the aiming time gets this thing pulled out quite a bit. 2.9 seconds plus the soft stats will make you shoot unaimed shots if you want to unload as quickly as possible, but obviously you can take more time between shots to aim every shot fully. It's gonna be hard to lead the targets that are on the move at the high ranges because of the soft stats and the poor aiming time, but you have reasonably good gun depression. The same is actually on the 50B and the E5, -8 and +12 elevation. Not bad at all for an autoloader. So far in this game we completely obliterated the Panther 2, shed a little bit as well for a lot of damage. You can see how fast this tank builds up damage, and now we obliterated an IS-3 as well. Pretty shitty target for what I had to shoot at there, but I couldn't really go for the mediums because then I would have got shot by everybody and their mother. So IS-3 was the target there. Now using the Tiger 2 as my cover, and he's tanking pretty well, and you can see how quick this tank reloads. I mean, these mediums haven't even touched the Tiger 2 properly, and I'm back on my feet and reloaded, so not the best shots here. 2 hull down mediums, managed to dodge the 121 shell, and again, like, these are just poor shots, and I'm gonna take the easy shots here again, because you don't really want to look for your shots too long. You wanna unload and fuck off. I did only hit 2 in that clip, so it was pretty damn poor. And again, just retreating behind my Tiger 2. Finally, our mediums move in to clean this up, so I don't have to take all the damage again. And that's really how you want to play this tank. You go in, you shoot people in the face, and you get out. You don't stick around, you don't aim. You just go in, close range, shoot them in the face, and fall back. And try not to get shot too much. Aiming in this tank, not really. You aim when you have to, but whenever the tank is in your reticle, you just go for it and hope you get reasonably lucky. Maybe after the 9.6 accuracy changes, that's not gonna be that good of a plan anymore. But even then, the aiming isn't that bad. As long as you put your enemy tank in your reticle, you should be good enough anyways. And once again, the DPM on this tank is ridiculous for an autoloader. There's no reason this DPM should be that high, and it is, and that's why this tank is worth the grind. The firepower you get on an autoloader is just above everything World of Tanks have ever seen before, and it's why this tank is considered to be slightly overpowered, to say the least, and it kinda is, and that's why this tank is definitely worth the grind. Even though the grind might be a bit clunky with having to play light tanks and medium tanks, depends on the line you... Well, you have to play light tanks and medium tanks regardless of which line you choose, but the tier 10 is just ridiculous. The sheer amount of DPM here is through the roof, and you would be a fool not to get this tank if you want a really good tier 10 autoloader. That being said, I definitely have way more battles in the 50B than I do have in the 57 Heavy. Now, partially because the 57 Heavy obviously was the first tank I got, but I don't really like to play my 57 too much just because it feels so overpowered and so easy to play compared to a 50B, where you actually positioning matters and you can't just roll in and murder people, even though you can do that in a 50B as well, but in to a lesser degree. And now here I'm just like, fuck it, I'll just take the hit and trade. It's not like I can't afford it, and I'll just go for his tracks and go for his tracks again. And this tank does that really well. You track somebody, he takes about a second to realize that he's been tracked, and he takes another second to press the repair key, and then you track him again. It's insanely punishing in that way as well. And look how quickly the damage is building up. 6k already. Obviously I did shoot some tier 8s, so I'm not ashamed to admit it, but in this tank you want to take the easy damage, you want to unload and fuck off, and if that means shooting tier 8s over tier 10s, you do it, and you just reload for 23 seconds and you're back in a fight, and then you shoot the tier 10s. So the equipment you want to put on this tank has to be ridge tabs, ventilation, and then the third choice is yours, optics or gun length drive. I actually have gun length drive on. It's probably going to be the better choice after the accuracy changes as well. Last guy here, E100 left. I am actually going to go for the kill here. The 62A fucked me over pretty much with the E4 as well, and this is as dodgy as shots get, but fuck that 62A. He probably was doing that on purpose, so fuck him and I get the kill. So here's the end plate. 1786 experience without any doubles, ace tanker, high caliber, and a tank sniper for some reason. Did get to shoot some long range shots, but you wouldn't really expect tank sniper in this thing. I did obliterate a lot of tier 8, so not really the most graceful effort there, but you can just see how quickly this tank rips through people. 6.8k damage done, 4 kills, 1191 base experience. Made some credits as well, 25 shots fired, 23 hit, 19 penetrations. Not really bad, since like I didn't really aim any of my shots. As long as I saw the enemy in my sights, I just released the fire, and it works reasonably well. It might suffer to the accuracy changes, but the tank is ridiculously good. There's no denying that. And that being said, we're ready to go into the second game, so let's do that. So here's the second game, playing on Serene Coast. Again, pretty decent matchmaking for me. Top tier and arguably a better team than the enemies. Not as much as the previous one, but still. So how to really play the 57 Heavy? Well, it's pretty damn simple, as I said. Just getting close, unload, and fuck off. The biggest weakness of the 57 Heavy is definitely its driver, and if you go into God mode in this tank, you're obviously gonna pay the price for it. I mean, still, if you go in on your own with no backup, with no way to hide after you unload, you're gonna die, and you're gonna die every time. So you always have to make sure that you have that basic positioning done, that you shoot, you reload in cover, and not in the open. And now just food for my auto loader here. Nothing really to say here. These medium tanks way overextended, and they rushed into way too much crap here. And I have this rock to cover my ass as well. So this is pretty much as simple as you get into cover. Now there's some little shit shooting me, probably a 1390, but there's nothing I can do about it at the moment. I still need to kill the 62A first before I do anything else, and I am going to go for him as soon as I'm reloaded. He is getting shot by other people, and shooting on the move in this tank is not a good idea, but I didn't have a chance to shoot my friendly, so there was nothing really to lose, and going for another reload straight away as well. And shooting on the move here paid out in a big way. If I stopped the name, I probably would have gotten RD'd. If I stopped the name, the 1390 probably would have shot me again, or the E3 or whatever. So yeah, it paid out there for sure, and I'm already reloaded. So the potential on this autoloader is ridiculously insane. The first time you play this, you're like, this is just like fucking cheating, and that's really how the 57 feels half of the time. And like, when the tank's biggest weakness is the aggressive driver, then you know there's something not really right with the balancing here. And again, close range, roll up, kill the fucking medium tank and roll out. Bad shot there by me, can't really deny it. But he dies anyway, so we're happy, and he's dead. And again, 2.4k damage, 2 minutes in the game. The potential on this tank is ridiculous. Just have to find the positions where you can get your enemies one by one, close range, and retreat in cover after you're dealt with them. Now the next play is going to be to clear out their base from the middle. There's no real point of going back now before we do that. most of the TD is probably going to be paying attention to something else, but this side ISO should be able to deal with that TD or whatever the WZ got him. As it goes for cruise skills, the standard as it always goes: 6 sense repairs, smooth ride snapshot, situational awareness recon. The better goes to get on this thing. Safe storage is also good. Ammo rack doesn't really get hit too much unless you get hit in your road wheels all that much, or if you don't get hit all that much to begin with. So here's the Turtis. Should have aimed that first shot more, but I get lucky, ridiculously lucky with that third shot, so I guess that fourth shot was just so I don't have to find an excuse to not reload, and my reload starts automatically. Completely unnecessary there, but whatever, it didn't really cost me anything anyways. So Turtis is quite mad at us now, so I'll go and deal with that now as well. He has the stock gun, so it's not really dangerous as well. 240 damage per shot isn't really what you should be afraid of. First shot getting him into the track. Second shot was a bit of a bad one. I should have shot him more inside of a track and not try to get through the entire spaced armor of his track. Just poor aim by me, nothing really to say there. Pick up a kill on the attack as well. Now it's time to reload again and turn around. You notice how you don't really care if you have shot all your 4 shells or not. You just go for reloads whenever you're done with the current engagement, because 20 seconds on the reload isn't really all that much. Here I'll taking my chances. I don't really care if he shoots me. I can afford to lose 750 health here now, just to advance on him and get closer to our base, which is where all the enemies are going to be. So lower plate of an E3, not really a problem when you have 260 penetration. He only gets my track because not lucky at all. That was all obviously calculated. Going for a reload once again. Every time you end an engagement, you go for a reload. There's no point of holding your shots if you have 20-second reload. There's absolutely no point. You can just see the potential. I mean, this is not even like these games are too special. As I said, I didn't even take screenshots of these games because I thought nothing of them. They felt like average T57 Heavy games. You don't even notice how fast damage builds up and how much you get in the end. The fighting is still not over. We'll still need to reset the cap, but before the action starts, the quick summary of this tank. It's ridiculously OP, even though the grind is a bit clunky with you have to play light tanks, but if you don't really mind that, then the grind isn't that bad as well. You have to pick one of the lines though, and that is actually quite a hard call, especially after the accuracy changes. Go with your gut and choose whatever line you want. I probably would go for the T69 line and get through the T21 rather than get through a T49 after it gets hit by the accuracy changes, and the 57 Heavy is totally worth it, and T41 is also really good. And now for the base reset, 2 tier 10 Heavies, both full health. I'm gonna focus the one that's showing the side to me, but it worked out pretty poorly for me to say the least. I do trade pretty inefficiently here, but it's not like it matters here now. Do get ammo wrecked as well, but it's not like that matters at all as well. I have cover to reload behind, and in 20 seconds I'll be back in action to secure more of this damage here. And again, building up the damage. I don't even care if he shoots me again. I have plenty of health for 3 shots of the IS-4, so I'll just take one if my teammates don't want to. 1 shot into the side, 2 shots into the side, and you see that the E1 is gonna get the kill. 6.6k damage, not half bad though. And here's the second set of end plates. There's some mission here, so there's more experience than I actually got the base experience difference. So another ace tanker, another high caliber. 6,600 damage done, 3 kills, 1,181 base experience as you see, so the first plate was a bit broken. But happens with this replay side. I mean, it was just... both games were around 6 minutes, and both games I did more than 6k damage, so the potential with this tank is ridiculously high. Again, 25 shots fired, 22 hit, only 18 penetrated. Again, didn't aim half of my shots, hit most of them anyways, and I did pull some stupid shots in that game as well. So yeah, the 57 Heavy, like there's no real arguing. If you want a really good tier 10 Heavy tank, this is where you really have to go. One thing I will say though is that for me this tank is not fun to play just because of how simple the gameplay of it is. You just roll up and shoot people in the face, and that's all there is. There's no real planning involved. The only thing you need to make sure is that you have cover to back up behind and reload. Other than that, you just roll up, shoot people in the face, and roll back. And that is not really all that exciting for me anymore. So I would choose 50B over this thing, just because of how much more challenging the 50B is to play to me. But if you're looking for an extremely competitive tier 10 heavy tank, this is where you have to go. And there's no real doubt that this tank is worth the grind, and it is one of the best tier 10 heavy tanks. I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I will see you on the next one.